The fun thing about a hackathon is you get an endorphin hit. You just don't give up. So persistence is like an underrated quality in startups. That's the fun of doing a startup, is you have that empowerment. Like you have that. I think it's very similar to a hackathon. That pressure to build something quick, that pressure to build something useful, that pressure to build something to win. It's like all those factors create like a successful startup. I do feel like there's parts of it that are just persistence. Like you just don't give up. So persistence is like an underrated quality in startups. Like you worked on your hackathon, not for a week, but for 4 years. What could you do? If you worked on one of those like projects for 4 years, like what would it become? That's what a startup is. It's like you have an assumption, you think it'll like be a winner, you start building it, but you have emotional roller coasters. Like, why am I doing this? And then you're like, this is the best thing ever. And then you're like, this sucks. No one cares. And then you go, everybody, you're going to change the world, and then it sucks again. So it's like a roller coaster of up and down emotions, but there is isolation, but empowerment. Isolation meaning there's not as many support systems like a big company, but you're also empowered. Like you create your own destiny. Like in a startup, like you're not held back from, if you were really passionate about something and you said you'll do it, whatever, you could do it. And there's not a lot of people that are going to just say no. SpaceX looks all fun and great from the outside, but it's a lot of like math and equations and risk and like buying rocket fuel, and it's not so cool inside. You're just kind of like that, but it looks cool. Like the end result of all those years of hard work, when the rocket goes up and then it lands, it's like, it looks like it just does that on its own, but it's not. It's all that hard work of people. I mean, in Stony Brook, it's similar. I think it's similar where like you have a class. It's like, how do I get an A in this class? You have a formula in your head, and if that formula is right, you get your A. Like, and that you have your own, like I call it like mental models and strategies to get the A that you want. Go to the professor, talk to the professor, study on the weekends, like you kind of know what you want to do to like get that A. So startups are very similar. It's like, but there is luck involved in startups, but also persistence. Like, OpenAI was a failure in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 6 years it took them to get to that point. They could have given up in year 3 and no one would have cared. So like, it is a long-term game. Like it's not a short-term game. And I think a lot of people view it as like a short-term game. Like the fun thing about a hackathon is you get an endorphin hit. I was second place and it was only like 4 days. If I told you had to run across the country, that's what a startup is. And in your head, you're like, how the am I going to run across the country? It sounds insane, but it's like, that's what a startup is. It's like taking it day by day and like just building a process so you don't kill yourself in the process, but also like making progress every day. So it's like a refinement of like your skills. But hackathons are nice. They're just too short. The persistence isn't there. Because if you did your hackathon for 3 years, you might get into arguments with the other people on the team. How do you get past that? You might, you know what I mean? Like get tired. How do you get past that? You might get bored of the problem. How do you get past that? Like there is this euphoria at a hackathon. Like we're going to do this. We're going to win this. And you all get excited by the idea, I mean, there's a famous graph that like the Y Combinator startup graph. Do you know that? So basically, this is what doing a startup is. Here's the hackathon. This all the way up till this like top point. That's a hackathon. Yeah. You get excited, you do it, you work on it 4 days, and then you're done. Imagine winning the trophy and feeling great, and then like you have no users, and you keep building, and you build it, and 2 years go by, and you just don't have users, and you don't have users, and you're like, why am I working on this? So year 3, you're like, what am I doing with my? Then year 4, you get a couple of doctors to use it. Then no hope, and then like you get maybe a couple more doctors, and then one of the developers figures out this hack to get something to get more of the community of like dermatologists using it. And then you feel a bump, and then but you're like, it's not quite there. And then you feel like, okay, what did we do right here? And then at some point, year 6, you get ChatGPT. It's like that stress of like, have you ever used Figma? How long did it take Figma to get PMF, product market fit? 5 years to achieve product market fit. So like if you could do a startup for 5 years or 6 years, like what I was saying with ChatGPT, how long did it take SpaceX to launch the first rocket? Let's see, 4 attempts, but how long? How long was that? How long in years? Let's say in years, because that's the way we think. Okay, SpaceX successfully launched 4 attempts with 3 failing. So this is that point of almost bankrupt. You literally are going to break and you feel depressed, but the persistence and there is luck in there. So like people didn't give up on him totally. Something happened. Other people helped. He got some financing. So he pulled out of that depression for the company. So like persistence, let's assume the average startup takes 7 years, 7 years for a startup. Like here, let's look at this. What is the time frame for the average startup to become successful? Right? I'd say 7 years, right? Okay, 2 to 5 years. Okay. And then look at this. Potentially 7 to 10 years. So it's between 2 and 10 years. So that's a long range of gap. Mm-hmm. That's where this uncertainty that drives most founders crazy. This is between 2 and 10 years to get to this. And in this, I would say 95% of founders just give up. Just throw the towel. This is too hard. I don't want to fight with my friends. My wife is upset with me. My husband's upset with me. I want to get married. I can't pay my mortgage. I want to get a dog. I want to move to another country. I feel like traveling the world. I don't have a life. Like all of that contributes to the give up. And it's like, if you pull through this give up period, get success. Is it guaranteed? The answer is no. But your chances go up if you can navigate stressful situations quite a bit. So that's the end goal. It's like doing that. And what is a hackathon? It's this, boom, endorphin hit. There's none of the other years. It's a 4-day enjoyment period of excitement because you're at a hackathon. You get excited. You're like, I'm at a hackathon. This is great. You just do it. And then boom, you win second place, you get the endorphin hit and you move on. But imagine getting that endorphin hit and then working 2 to 10 years on something. What gets me excited is like the GDP, gross domestic product, or like what is the market size of money movement, right? So like this is the broad market. The global money transfer market is large and growing with an estimated range between 36 billion and 200 billion by 2034. That's not all of it. That's just a piece of it. And I'm like, market size is really big. And I personally see the problem day in and day out where people are struggling to move money and receive money properly. At a broad, like high level, the big vision is how do we move money easy and confidently the right ways? And like, if you think about like salaries, people get paid every 2 weeks, they get paid every month, they get paid every week. Imagine if you got paid as you worked. It doesn't work that way today, but it's like we can move towards a future where money is exchanged at the time of value creation. And like, there's also other areas here like crypto and distributed ledgers. Like that also removes it from the government in a sense where it could be government supported or not. But also AI is involved in this. So if you like layer AI and newer technologies like FedNow is a newer technology. The government created this new technology called FedNow, and it's supposed to help the United States move money faster in the future. It's not totally implemented yet, but like there's going to be better things beyond FedNow, and there's going to be AI to help create more confidence. And there's going to be like this big money movement market. It's going to just be exciting. And like the big vision of JustPaid is like, how do we help anyone who creates a business get the confidence of like having a finance team, which most startups don't have, or like small businesses don't have. Big companies just hire people right now. Like they hire a lot of people to help with all of this. And, we're looking at it like, okay, let's use technology to figure out a way to like leverage everything that's out there at a really high level to democratize parts of the money movement in the world. And, it's a hard problem. It's like a hard problem because one, there's fraud out there. There's accidental money movement. There's inaccurate amount of money movement. It would be great if AI helped, like AI assistance, almost like self-driving cars. If we have self-driving cars, we should have AI money movement assistance also. your livelihood relies on both of those. You don't want to crash in a car, but you also don't want to, you want to receive money when you need it. Like you should have an AI agent that says like, this is your salary for some reason wasn't paid on time and it was paid, you were paid less. Should I reach out to your employer and just give them a heads up? And you'd be like, yes. So it's like a life finance expert for your life. But JustPaid, we're looking at like business to businesses and thinking, because business to business is an easy place to start because every business needs to move money. Students, not so much right now. So like students are kind of like, learning and in the system, but businesses rely on revenue collections. They rely on it. So it's like a good wedge to start with this like big vision of like what we're trying to do. And the market is bigger than this. It's bigger than this. This is just money transfer services. There's other things like, what is the AI here? Let's look at this. Let's just call this like, what is the market size of AI fintech. And this is, this is what it's going to be. So there's like different, so this is just the AI side of it. So not only the money movement, if you layer in AI, it's going to be a massive market at $61 billion. People are going to buy fintech tool to help them in their life. And it's just like, you're going to buy it 10 years from now, you're going to have an AI agent help you with your health. You're going to have an AI agent help you with your finances. You're going to have an AI agent help you find jobs. You're going to have an AI agent to help you with everything, like you're getting your groceries, AI agent to help you communicate with your pets. It's going to be insane, right? So like the market sizes are massive. It's just going to be a really, really big market. So hopefully that gives you like a sense of like what we're trying to do. And we just, business to businesses need to get paid. So you start with that wedge, you layer in AI, you layer in money movement, and then there's enough need there that they start to buy it. And then you can like layer on different areas, but it's like running across America. It's like you start with like one part, you start with that one step and you just keep going and like, okay, what do we do today? What do we do tomorrow? It's not, you don't have all the answers on day one. Like, did Google really think they were going to become as big as they did? The answer is no. They were unsure of how big they could become. So you start and you just keep working on it day in and day out. And that persistence, like going back here, Google was probably here when they were trying to sell to Google. Trying to sell to Yahoo. They were probably scared. They didn't have ad revenue yet. They didn't know how valuable their company could be. And they were just scared. It was fear and uncertainty that made them like want to sell. There's nothing wrong with that. If they sold to Yahoo, it would have been a big win for Yahoo, but Google may have not have, the technology might not have like grown to what it could truly be without the path they took. This like could have killed the word Google. Google it. Let's Google it. If they just sold to Yahoo for $1 million, like right here, it would have been just a quick, I don't know if it was $1 million or $1 billion. I don't know what the amount that they were trying to sell for, but it was a lot, but it wasn't as big as it got. So, you just take it day by day with a startup. You could talk about the big vision, but you also want to just look close every day, because this is like one day. You just keep working and you refine the product. You make it better for your existing users, if any users, and you just keep working on it. Like you just kind of figure out who your real user is going to be. I mean, if you look at a company like Boston Dynamics, who are their real users? Like there's going to be a lot of users for this product, but they didn't have users for a long time. So they're really in an uncertain period here. Like now I kind of see it. I'm there, like the military could buy their product. Security companies could buy their product, large like warehouses could buy their products, like everybody. But when they started, like it was really like, it looked like this, like it did not walk. It was attached to this massive like device. It would fall over. Like they were really non-functional devices when they first started. So like they went through this huge drought, and now the thing is doing backflips and like jumping around. And it's like, it's essentially as fast as a human, faster than a human. It's like, it can do so much stuff, like all of their different devices. And it's really powerful how far they've come. So now I think they're like in the promised land. Like I would say here, if they get the price point down to like $3,000 per robot, $2,000 per robot, everybody will buy one to help them do their dishes and laundry. Like literally I'll just like help them like do tasks around the house. And people would just buy them just so that they could enjoy life more. Imagine just going to class and it carrying your books for you. You don't have to carry a book. You don't have to carry anything. You don't have to carry your laptop. You just hand it to your robot, and they just help you walk around the school with whatever you wanted to buy food, and it's carrying it home for you. Not that you're going to like need that all the time, but like it's getting to that point where like little things can like be taken care of. But this was all persistence and luck and funding and timing, and like they had they had the backing of the government also like to do that type of work. But I'm sure that they don't talk about it publicly, but there are a lot of moments where they were like, what are we doing? Like, what's the point? You can start your own company, apply to YC every batch, like definitely do that. But you could also work at one. Like if you worked at our startup, you would just get a sense, okay, this is how it works. I like people that are go-getters and can just build stuff, honestly. That's who I like to partner with and like work with at a startup. But also like equity is important. Like there's also incentives. So incentives are something you didn't bring up, which is like if people get equity or they get the right salary or there's a future like win for them, it aligns them to the team, for the long term. In Silicon Valley, equity is like a secret that has made a lot of people wealthy. It does create no wealth a lot of the time because a lot of startups fail. But I mean, let's look at NVIDIA. Like the average employee there, because of their equity, is worth $20 million. If you look at OpenAI, the employees are ultra wealthy. It wasn't their salaries. It was the equity that they got in the company. So like the thing about a salary is you get addicted to it. And this is what happens at Stony Brook and in New York City a lot is you get addicted to getting like a $200,000 salary. Congratulations, but you're not going to get ultra rich. You're going to get safe enough until you get fired or you retire. You can map it out and have an equation. But the thing about equity is it's an unknown, $0, or it could be worth $100 million. I can promise you all of those NVIDIA employees had no idea what their equity was worth. And now it's worth 20 million. The average employee there is worth $20 million. I mean, I don't know about the newer employees, but the ones that have been there like 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, like if they were there 10 years, they get to that point. I don't know the new ones like that just are coming in, but that's the upside, the abnormal upside that like a lot of people that come to startups in Silicon Valley understand is equity is the true wealth creator that like creates ultra wealth. And like that's literally what happened to me in my first startup. Hackathons have a short-term incentive, which is let's win this. But it shows that you can do it. It's a psychological way to like let people understand they can build stuff and they could do it together. So it creates this like, I could do it. I could do it. The thing about equity is it creates a long-term incentive because equity, you vest into it over several years. So as you're vesting, you get more equity or stock options in the company. And that it has like an unknown X factor, which can create ultra wealth. Like, and you do see it in like a lot of the companies that come out of Silicon Valley. Like a lot of companies in New York City don't give equity and it's just not as much of the culture. But the startup structure is you come in, you get equity. The equity might be worth a lot if you execute. And that's the thing. It's like you become the determining factor as a startup employee or founder, like to create that value. And that's where it's like really empowering, if that makes sense. Like you can make that equity more valuable over time. Again, 95% of startups fail. So a lot of that is zero for all those startups. But the 5% that like make it, they unlock ultra wealth for everyone who's involved that like gets some of that equity. Depending. So it's like, it's a gamble also. It's like, do you pick the right founders? Do you believe in the team? Like the other thing that I think that hackathons don't show is perseverance through stress of fighting and misalignment. If there's misalignment, you don't have enough time to be misaligned because it's only 4 days. It's a week. It's 2 weeks. How do you process and like debate and get through that and be more strong as a company? You don't get that chance to do that in a hackathon. The one thing I really appreciate about rapid iteration companies that completely keep iterating, you build something, it doesn't work, it fails. You build something, it doesn't work, it fails. You build something, it doesn't work, it fails. You build something else, it doesn't work, it fails. The fact that you get into these iterative loops of building creates success. And I see a lot of the AI companies that are out today that are successful rapidly iterating, putting product out. And if it does, no one cares. They just move on to the next thing and they just do more and more and more. And what I appreciate about OpenAI is it is just a rapid iteration think tank of just ideas. So like they launched ChatGPT, they launched DALL-E, they launched Operator. Operator might fail, but I don't think it's going to kill OpenAI. It'll be a minor bump in the road. They'll just roll on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So they've created this rapid iteration cycle and they're all in agreement and working through it where they just like launch, see if it works, launch, see if it works, launch, see if it works. I really like that cadence of doing that. And I think that's a really magical thing when you can create that type of environment. OpenAI is big, but they have the culture. Like smaller companies can do it too, but it's just like anyone who does that, big or small, like figure out the right PMF over time, you know? So the nice thing about like a hackathon is you're actually in a small stint of that. Like you go through a lot of cycles of ideas. The problem is you don't get the users on board. You don't have time to get the users. You're just showing it to like whatever presenters, voter, the people who are voting, like Shark Tank. They vote, they think it's gonna work, they might use it, but you're only at that point. It's like that one point in time. It's like you've launched. I spoke to one entrepreneur this week. He's been working on his company like 3 years. He never launched. It's all in his head. Like you don't launch, you build nothing. You built nothing. And I'm like, I couldn't say that to him, but I'm like, you've been doing this 3 years and you've not launched the product. No one is using it. You're going to fail if you don't launch. Like you have to launch like the product and you have to get feedback. And if it doesn't work, iterate. And if that doesn't work, iterate on more. And it's just like those cycles. And there was a hesitancy in this one entrepreneur. He's just like, it's not ready yet. It's not ready. 3 years, it's already not ready. It'll never be ready. That's the fun of doing a startup is you have that empowerment. Like you have that. So like that's the benefit of being at a startup is you don't have a lot of politics. You can just launch. But that's why you probably will like startups is because you get a lot of that. You get a lot of that endorphin hits like by building. And what's even more fun is when the users start using it a lot and then you start building more and fixing it and then building more and fixing it. And then they just keep giving more feedback and it becomes a positive feedback loop a lot of the time where like what I said about Figma, it's like they started getting users and it started to work and then they got more users and it started to work more. And then they were taking Photoshop users and it started to work more. And they're like, it just created a hyper positive feedback loop for them where they just built Figma. And it's just like, it took time to get to that point. Same thing with Notion. Notion took years to get to build. It's very much the same. Like it took them years to get to that point of what are we building? Who's actually using it? But they kept rebuilding Notion. I don't know if you know that. Like they actually kept rebuilding it, refining it, rebuilding it. So like it was that obsession that got them to success. Big vision, I don't like to look at it that way. I look at it more like, what are we doing today to make the company successful? Today, you're awake. What can you do to make the company more successful? Not, we're going to take over the world, like type of thing. It's like, what do we do today? What can you do to make an impact to get us more users as a startup? Or how can I get us more users? Like, and it's a tough question, but you should ask yourself that every day as you're like working, maybe you're working on something that's not useful and you're like, I shouldn't work on this. I should work on that. So there's a lot of like decisions in that also. So it's a process. It's a process. I don't like to look from the big side as much, like the big side. Cause when you look at it from like, how do I compete with Walmart? It's like, you start small. Walmart started small. Amazon started small. Like everybody started small. Walt Disney started small. Like he made a couple of movies. Like he had a couple of, artists. It was not what it is today. It was like, that's the thing. It's just keep iterating quickly and daily and persistently and make sure you're working with your team. You don't have to be fully aligned, but it's like get in the right direction, get the boat rowing in the right direction. And just keep getting customers, get users. Like that's the most important thing.